Good day, everyone. Welcome to our new lesson here in our course, Remedial Teaching in English, the Metacognitive Concept, Component, and Teaching Strategies. Before we start, let me introduce to you myself first. I am Given B. Lapid from BSc English 3A, and I will be your reporter for today. I hope that you can learn something from me. Enjoy learning! This video lecture is divided into three parts. The first part is the cognition. The second part is the metacognitive. And the last part is the metacognition in the classroom, benefits and strategies. Before anything else, let us know first the objective of our lesson for today. After the discussion of the lessons, the students are expected to evaluate the use of metacognitive skills in one's own learning. And now, let us begin with our lesson for today. Let us start with the first part, the cognition. As we all know, cognition refers to the process of perceiving, attending, remembering, memorizing, problem-solving, reasoning, and learning. Let me introduce to you the first subtopic of cognition, the basic units of cognition. The following are the basic units of cognition. Number 1, the concept. Attaching labels to categories of things and information that share common characteristics. Objects, people, and events are grouped together according to the perceived properties or characteristics. Number 2, proposition. Related concept, a separate assertion about an observed experience, event, or relationships among concepts. Number 3, the schema, an organizational pattern of the mind, a mental structure that helps to organize knowledge. Number 4, productions, knowledge on how to follow series of step-by-step procedures. And lastly, number 5, the scripts, specific knowledge about the sequence of events. Let us move on with the second subtopic of cognition, the teaching methods that promotes the cognitive skills. The following are the methods that promotes the cognitive skills, and these are: number 1, cognitive apprenticeship. It talks about helping the students grasp concepts and procedures through modeling, coaching, articulation, reflection, and exploration. Number 2, reciprocal teaching. It talks about the dialogues or exchange between students and teachers about certain parts of the lesson. Number 3, anchored instruction. The use of stories, cases, or situations while doing instruction. Number 4, inquiry learning. Developing higher order thinking skills, or HOTS, by engaging students in formulating hypotheses to find solutions to a problem. Number 5, discovery learning. It talks about the students interact with their environment, manipulate things, explore, do experiments to discover principles and relationships. And lastly, problem-based learning. A real-life problem or an ill-structured question is presented to the students and asked to find the best solution from many possible solutions. Let us now move on to the second part of our lesson, the metacognition. Metacognition is a concept that is becoming increasingly popular in education. Ever since the Education Endowment Foundation Toolkit highlighted metacognition as one of the most cost-effective ways to help students improve their learning, more and more schools have started teaching metacognition in the classroom. Now, let us move on to the first subtopic of metacognition, these strategies to promote metacognition. The following are the strategies to promote metacognition, and these are: number one, relationships, creating a space where students feel comfortable answering and making a mistake, where failures are expected and welcomed as a boost to the learning experience, and where teachers model the same for students. Number two, think aloud, giving students the chance to think through it with you or by rephrasing the question can be a simple way to help them push through that productive struggle and develop their own strategies for when they feel that same sense of doubt. Number three, share ideas. Sometimes helping students to identify their learning style will lead to a quick boost in confidence and build self-confidence in learning. Number four, resources. There are many strategies for metacognition. Caitlin Tucker shared 4 strategies for metacognitive thinking and how to get students to think about their learning. These are easy to get started with and provide a way for students to build comfort in sharing their learning and help us identify some areas they might need some help with. Ideas include the SMART goal setting, which is the specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely, weekly exit slips, video response or reflection tools, and ongoing self-assessment documents. And lastly, number 5, visible thinking. Help students to make thinking visible, whether using an outline with questions or prompts and having students fill in their thoughts, or trying a strategy like sketchnoting where students can jot down ideas and make connections to learning. This can be beneficial for all learners. Let us move on with the next subtopic. What is metacognition in the classroom? Metacognition, derived from the Greek root word meta, meaning beyond, and the Latin word cognoscere, meaning getting to know, refers to a student's ability to be aware of what they are thinking about and choose a helpful thought process. It captures a student's ability to analyze how they think, have high self-awareness and control of their thoughts, and choose an appropriate and helpful strategy for the task at hand. The importance of metacognition in education is on the rise, after research suggested that it is one of the most effective and cost-efficient ways to help students make gains in their learning. Evidence shows that students who use metacognitive thinking and related strategies improve in a range of subjects, including math, science, and English. For the next subtopic, what does metacognition mean in schools? Let us have a look at concrete examples of metacognition in schools. Try seeing it as the ability to critically analyze how you think. We don't often like to believe we are wrong, but being able to take a step back and assess your own thoughts plays a key role in becoming an independent learner. Having high self-awareness and control over your thoughts. It is important to be aware of our skills and what we can and cannot do. Those who lack metacognitive thinking tend to overestimate themselves. As a result, when they don't succeed, they suffer a major setback. Knowing your capabilities as a student and, of course, as a teacher is particularly useful when you are looking for areas you can improve. Developing appropriate and helpful thinking strategies at each stage of a task. Before a task, students can use metacognitive thinking to think about which strategy has worked previously for something similar and what the best first step may be. During a task, they can use it to make sure that they are staying on track and that what they have done so far is working. Finally, after a task, having a self-debrief that is consistent regardless of the outcome will ensure that excessive positive or negative emotions don't cloud their judgment and learning. It will also allow them to identify which areas they can improve and whether the strategy they used needs to be tweaked next time a similar task comes up. And for the next subtopic, we have the types of metacognition. There are different types of metacognition. These include number 1, metacognitive knowledge. This refers to a student's awareness of what they do or don't know about their cognitive processes. It includes knowing their strengths, weaknesses, and identifying gaps in their knowledge. This type of metacognition also refers to knowledge of skills that students may use to solve a problem. And lastly, number 2, metacognitive regulation. This refers to the different strategies that students may use to manage their thoughts and emotions. This includes how well they plan, monitor, and evaluate their performance. For example, identifying that a particular strategy is not giving them the results that they want, and deciding to try a different one is an instance of metacognitive regulation. Let us now move on with the next subtopic, the categories of metacognition. The following are the categories of metacognition. Number 1, person variables or self-knowledge. How one views himself as a learner and thinker. It refers to knowledge about how human beings learn and process information. Number 2, task variables or task knowledge. It includes the knowledge about the nature of the task. It is knowing what needs to be accomplished, gauging its difficulty, and knowing the kind of effort it demands from the learner. And lastly, strategy variables or strategic knowledge. It involves awareness of the strategy you are using to learn a topic and evaluating whether this strategy is effective or not. For our next topic, the strategies for developing metacognitive behaviors. The following are the strategies for developing metacognitive behaviors. Number 1, identifying what you know and what you do not know. The learner need to make themselves conscious about their knowledge. Number 2, talking about thinking. Learner talks about his thinking and inquire to clarify thinking. Number 3, keeping a thinking journal. Learner use learning log or diary to note learning difficulties you explained earlier. Number 4. Planning and self-regulation. Learner must make plan for learning activities including estimating time requirements, organizing materials, and scheduling procedures necessary to complete an activity. Provide questions for enhancing reflection. Number 5. Debriefing the thinking process. Examining the thinking process to develop awareness of strategies that can be applied to other learning situations. Number 6. Self-evaluation. Learner use checklist focusing on thinking processes. And for our next subtopic, the factors that influence the cognitive and metacognitive skills in learning. The following are the factors that influence the cognitive and metacognitive skills in learning. First is intelligence, ability to use the mental processes. Second is age, cognitive development, heightened cognitive abilities. Third is level of education. Strategies vary from elementary to college period. And lastly, use of cognitive strategies for instruction. Strategies that are effective in the development of thinking skills. And for our next subtopic, the frequently asked questions about metacognition. The following are the frequently asked questions about metacognition. First is metacognition the same as self-regulation? The answer is no, but they are similar and often linked. Self-regulation is the process of managing one's thoughts and feelings while doing a task. Metacognitive thinking is having control over the cognitive processes you use in learning. However, due to their similarities, it can be assumed that improving one will improve the other. The second is metacognition the same as thinking about your thinking? The answer is thinking about your thinking only describes part of metacognition, in that it describes becoming more aware of your thought processes. Metacognition takes things a step further as it encompasses the regulation of these thoughts. At this level of self-awareness, students are able to actively channel their thoughts and alter their behaviors to enhance attainment. And lastly, how can I help my students develop metacognition? The answer is there is no one set way to improve students' metacognition. Each student may respond differently to different strategies. However, we have compiled a few tactics you could introduce in the classroom to kickstart your students' metacognitive thinking. And these are: identify what does and doesn't work well. Working alongside students to see what could be improved and what needs to be sustained will help both groups in setting targets. Number 2, reflective thinking. Ask them what they would do differently next time if they experience a setback, failure, or make a mistake. Lastly, build on the reflexive thinking. This type of thinking involves becoming aware of biases, and prejudices that sometimes cloud our judgment. And for our last topic, the metacognition in the classroom, benefits and strategies. Research by Education Endowment Foundation has found that metacognition is key to effective pupil learning. It can add up to 7 months of additional learning and improve the outcomes of disadvantaged learners. Not only that, but it is a way for teachers to gauge how well their students understand their own learning processes and regulate their learning so that they can support them accordingly. This is a key challenge in the field, particularly when remote learning is taking place. For the first subtopic, what is metacognition in education? As we have discussed a while ago, the term metacognition refers to an individual's ability to plan, monitor, evaluate, and make changes to their own learning behaviors in order to confront challenges more effectively. You might have heard it defined as thinking about thinking, but the elements of active monitoring and modifying of thought processes make it much more than this. It is also a form of self-regulation involving self-awareness, critical analysis skills, and the ability to problem solve. For example, a student with metacognitive skills might recognize that they have trouble applying formulas in math, think about the math problems they have solved before and the strategies they used, apply these strategies, assessing whether they are working or not, try a different strategy if the one they are using is not effective, and reflect on how they perform in this task and use this to inform their future work. For our next topic, why is metacognition beneficial in student learning? The potential benefits of metacognition in learning are as follows. Higher achievement level for the students. Metacognitive practices can also compensate for any cognitive limitations that a student might have, according to a research such as this. Increased ability to learn independently, being able to monitor their own progress lets them take control of their own learning, inside and outside the classroom. Improved resilience, identifying their successes and failures and which strategies work best for them or which have failed increases students' perseverance in getting better at their work. It aids disadvantaged students. According to this report and research by the EEF, teaching in a way that supports metacognition is beneficial for students who are at a disadvantage to their peers. And lastly, cost effectiveness. This method of teaching does not require specialist equipment nor any large purchases. It only requires teachers to be trained in the method effectively. One might ask, how do I teach metacognition? Although metacognition is about students taking control of their own learning, a teacher is still required to help them develop skills and strategies in order to do so. The EEF recommends that you teach metacognition alongside subject content rather than having specific learning to learn or thinking skills sessions. These sessions are ineffective because students find it hard to relate generic tips to subject-specific learning. There are several other things to consider before taking metacognitive strategies and activities into the classroom. These are: facilitate metacognitive learning through lesson structure and environment, provide appropriately challenging tasks, and giving them learning strategies to use. And the following are the metacognitive strategies and activities for the classroom, and these are learning and thinking journals, KW charts, essays, rules about asking for help, and mnemonics. And that's it for this video lecture. I hope that you learned a lot from me. Thanks for watching and listening.